Okay, what we're going to do in Unit 3 is show you how to use the ASP image control in order to display images on pages. Okay, we're going to show you a number of different methods you can use to do so. Okay, but what we're going to also show you about scripting, then the page load event, which we can use in order to set the value of the image control that we put on the page. Okay, so first of all, let's just copy the initial text that you're given. Okay, which is the straightforward HTML from the page. Let's go into our web application. Let's add a new file and let's call it display px. Now, as you see, if I there we are in the source, and then click on the design, there's nothing in the page. What ASP has done, or what Visual Studio has done, is put in a load of code for us to see, but it's not what we really want to use. We want to use the stuff from the tutorial. So let's select all of it and then replace it with the code we've been given. Okay, we're doing this just to kind of show that you understand better the how the page works. You know what its various constituent elements here are. So this is a load of wrapping, essentially. This doesn't really have anything except the title of the page. It doesn't do anything else. I mean, if I click on the design window, you see there's nothing in it. Okay, but it's just at the moment is a purely undynamic HTML page. What we want to do is now make it into a scriptable page. So what we can do now is add a page directive at the top. Now, if you go down the tutorial a bit, you'll see here the angle bracket %@ page language equals VB. This is a page directive which tells the compiler to understand this code here as being written in VB, as opposed to, say, being written in C# or any other language. Okay, so that kind of tells the compiler this is a VB.NET ASP.NET page. Okay, but then the next thing we need to do is to add some controls into the page. I mean, and also we need to add a form. Okay, the very first thing to do, in fact, before we add the controls, is the form. A form is an absolutely essential part of any web page which is actually dealing with data or is sending data on somewhere, because the form is the element through which any user interaction takes place. So what we need to do is add a form into our page. Let's just copy and paste this form part, and let's go back into our page and put it inside the body tag, and then that means now we've got a form inside our body tag where we can place controls which can then send their data on or receive data from elsewhere. Okay. Now in this page that is in the tutorial, you'll see eventually it should look like this. You will have a heading, nation's favorite drink, followed by a graphic underneath, followed by some text below that. Okay, so big text, graphic, small text. Okay, so what we're going to do now is put that line in nation's favorite drink. So if we go back into Visual Studio, the largest text you can write is H1. So let's just type in H1, nation's favorite, favorite drink. Okay, now if I click show that in the design, you'll see there nation's favorite drink. Now as you see underneath, there's an image, and underneath that there is some small text. But this image needs to be programmable. Okay, so this image needs to be possible for us to say, this is the image you want to appear inside this location, this part of the page. So what we're going to do now is put an image object and a label object underneath that, just so we can set it with code. So now if we go to View Toolbox, you get a list of all the objects which are available to you. And what I can do now is drag the image object onto my page. Okay, so let me just hide the server Solution Explorer a bit there. So an ASP image ID image 1 run at server. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with a label. I'm going to drag a label into the page. Okay. So you saw how I did that. I just dragged the label into the page, and it automatically created the ASP.NET code that I will need to be able to have that image and label in the page. Now if I click on the design view, you'll see now that I've got the image and I've got the label. what I could do is actually put a carriage return just before the label, so the label will go underneath the image, and then maybe just make the image a little larger. Okay, it should actually resize anyway to the size of the fundamental image file which is going to display. Okay, so we've got our image object and we've got our label, and now what we need to do is write some code which will specify what will appear inside that image. The image object, if I right click on the image object inside the design view and choose properties, and if I show the properties by dragging this divider across a bit, you see these are all the things you can set about the image. I can set its border color, I can set its border style, I can set its height and width, whatever. But the most crucial one is the image URL. The image URL, which I've got selected here, is, if you like, the path to the image file which will be shown inside that image holder. Okay, so that's very important. The other really important ones are things like alternate text. Okay, the alternate text is the text that will be displayed should the image not be possible to be viewed. Either the browser doesn't support images, or the browser has images turned off, or it's a browser for people with eyesight impairments, things like that. So that's where we can. These are the names of the properties that we can set, and these properties relate to this image. Okay. Now in the tutorial, the way those properties are set is actually in the page load script. So now if I go back to the tutorial and I see this part of the page, you'll see here you've got just after the HTML declaration and just before the head declaration, we've got a whole thing of this called script. Okay, and we've got underneath there we have something that says sub page load, and we can ignore all that, by val s as object, etc. Ignore all that. But underneath here we've got these three very important lines. Remember I said the properties of the image that could be set? Well, there's the first one, but we're setting it in code, not in the interface. We're saying image1.image URL will show this file. Its alternate text will be this, and underneath that we're saying that the label, which is the thing which exists below that in our page, will say in the third sentence. So let's copy all of that's in the script part of this tutorial, and let's put that into our page. So now we're in the design view at the moment, so click on the source, go into the source, and as I say, after the HTML and before the head, let's put the script. Okay, so we're putting now the script, but the only one thing however missing is this. It's saying that the object, the image that will be displayed inside the image1 object is this image called piechart01.gif. However, we need to get that image into that directory, into the same directory as where the ASPX file is, otherwise it won't be able to display it. So go back to your tutorial. Okay, go back to the bottom of the page where it says download the code. Okay, click on that and it should open WinZip or WinRAR. Okay, and if you click on OK, it'll show you what's inside the zip, which, as you see, is just the image file and the ASPX file. Okay, now I'm just going to drag that slightly to the side, and I'm going to let me just move the kind of with Visual Studio across a little, so I can show you what I'm doing. Okay, and now if I move the properties, when I close the properties part, okay, and I right click on the web application line, or whatever is the title of your project, whatever your project is titled, right click on it and choose open folder in Windows Explorer. Okay, so it chooses that. What it will do is it'll open that folder in Windows Explorer. Okay, and having done that, then what you can do is just drag your piechart.gif from the zip file and put it in the directory of your web application. As you see, in my web application it's called web application 2, web application 2. Okay, so then there's all my files. So that's an easy way to be able to get into the directory where the application is. So now if I close that one down and I close WinRAR down, okay, and now let's kind of see, and let's see if running this will actually. It says let's say run without debugging. Okay, and then it now opens inside Visual Studio, and as you see, the image has appeared. Okay, but should that image have not appeared, the nice thing is some alternate text would have been shown. Okay, if because we set the alternate text value, should there be any problem with that image appearing, the alternate text will be shown in its stead. Okay, so that is essentially how we can use the image control. We've set its value in the page load script. For now, it's not quite. All you need to know really is at this point is that whenever a page starts, you always get this function called. Okay, and so anything that goes inside there happens every time a page starts. Frankly, okay. There are the objects in the page whose values we are setting. We're setting the value of the image or image URL property. We're setting the alternate text property of the image, and then we're setting the text inside the label. But anyway, that is how you can easily display an image inside Visual Studio when you're writing ASP.NET pages.